This is Jamie Drummond for Good Food Revolution. I am here with none other than the venerable Charles Baker. We're here to speak about one of his new wines that's coming out very, very soon. Charles, tell us a little bit about what we're about to taste.
I'm going to pour the 2011 Charles Baker Riesling from the Picone Vineyard, situated in Vinemount Ridge, Niagara, Ontario.
And when is this released?
Through the Vintages stores of the LCBO on September 13th, a week Saturday.
Let's get to some tasting.
You bet.
Now, has this been released previously?
Only to customers, direct customers of ours in restaurants. So we've been selling it for the last year in restaurants, and now there's the public release through the LCBO.
Now, the label is a little bit different. Could you tell us a little about that?
Well, it has a bit of a distinct marking on it. If you zoom in closely, you'll see that the vintage is in a different font than normal. It's in a pink font, and it's our nod to a fundraiser that we have engaged in to help support Princess Margaret Hospital here in Toronto.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Now let's have a little taste of this, and you can take us through a little tasting note. Why not?
Why not? Let me grab a glass here.
Excellent.
Stick my head in your camera.
Nothing wrong with
Pour
that.
some wine. 2011 in Niagara was, I like to describe it as having a couple of different scenarios, a little neurotic as a vintage. It was hot, it was cold, it was rainy, it was dry, it was a little of everything. And Riesling had some difficulty. I have other vineyards where we had quite challenging harvests, but this vineyard, which sits right on the crest of the Niagara Escarpment in the town of Vineland, came through in flying colors. Very late October, 2 weeks after Thanksgiving. We picked perfectly dry, perfectly clean vineyard. It's probably one of the sweeter, if you like to use that word, maybe the richer styles of Riesling.
Yeah, I can see that, yeah.
A higher residual sugar, but I think the acidity levels of the vintage ask for that. And you know, you can't be afraid of a little meat on the bone or a little fat on the tummy. It balances out the zippy.
I was about to say, like that's what makes the wine, because without that fat on the bones, it would be a rather lean and austere wine, right?
Sure. Lots of fruit. Beautiful old vineyard, 30 years in general. The vines are deeply rooted in the Niagara Escarpment, into limestone. We pick very late for maximum fruit development. We pick ripe fruit, and we work on excruciatingly low yields, especially from a financial standpoint. We're very parsimonious with our yields out of that vineyard.
This vintage wasn't too bad to you yield-wise, though, right?
If you don't think 2 tons an acre is bad for you, then you're right.
Okay.
The previous 2 were a ton an acre. So
that's what I'm saying, as in compared to previous vintages.
It was downright gushing with fruit. Or as they say in France, pisser la vigne, right? You know, it was just jumping off the vine. But no, it was great. In fact, that's the target that I aim for, 2.5 tons an acre. The lower the yield, the more concentrated the fruit. And in a year like 2011, it didn't need to be excruciatingly low for that you want in cool years, and you don't want it higher than that for the warm years. It was a nicely balanced pick. And you know, we fermented it, used the free run juice only, so it's the cream on the milk pail, I like to say. Nice texture, lots of tropical fruit, some floral, herbal notes to it, which always comes out in this vineyard. It's owned by Chef Mark Picone, which is a nice tie into the herbaceousness of it. And it sits on Moyer Road. It's a really beautiful vineyard. I farm only the old block for this bottling, and that's the 30-year-old planting. Good Riesling, good appellation, good grower, and the folks at Stratus who support this endeavor. It all works out. And so on Saturday, it'll go through the catalog, and I hope you run out and buy a bottle. My wife and I are donating proceeds of this sale to Princess Margaret to assist in breast cancer research and care. So that's very dear to our heart, and we hope it goes well with a bottle of Riesling.
Now, something else I have to ask you. Over the years, you have tasted many bottles of the Picone Vineyard Riesling. What would be your perfect match with this particular vintage?
Let me think off the top of my head, what would be the perfect match?
Well, you've tasted this wine quite often.
Yes,
so
a gazillion times.
yeah.
Well, it's perfect Sunday morning. It's a nice pairing with Saturday night. No, it's because of this little extra richness from the RS, from the residual sugar, and the good acidity. I've always found, it's a terrific foil for spicy foods, a terrific foil for rich seafood, Indian food. Leading up to this release next week, we've had the support of dozens of restaurants around Ontario to support in this fundraiser. And what I should do is scratch my head and think of some recipes or dishes that came out of restaurants that have been pouring this wine now for us in support of this over the last year and a half. It's refreshing, delicious, vibrant Riesling, and it's a food wine, meaning that Riesling is the go-to bottle of wine for just about everything. So you don't have to actually overthink it too much. Just have a bottle of Riesling in your fridge.
A bottle of this Riesling.
Sure, but I'm a supporter of Riesling in general. Failing that, a bottle of wine in your fridge.
Charles Baker, thank you very much for joining us in our backyard at Good Food Revolution this afternoon, this wonderful end of summer. Actually, it's past the end of summer.
Feels like it's just beginning.
Charles, thank you. We wish you all the best with this particular bottling, and we look forward to tasting with you very soon.
Thanks,
thank
Jamie.
you again.